Welcome to Code 0292, a new show brought to you by Site. My name is Lungile Ngwenya. This show will tackle on youth affairs, and for today's show, we will talk about the national budget, focusing on the youth allocation. And to help me discuss this, I have my two guests who will introduce themselves. Welcome, guys.
Hi, Lou. I am Helen, Managing Director for Allocation Funerals and CEO of Angel Care Home Health. I'm a young entrepreneur working right here in Bulawayo.
And my name is Lungile Ngwenya. I am the founder and the executive director for Youth Invest, a trust that is based here in Bulawayo.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure we all heard the speech by the finance minister talking about the national budget, particularly the youth budget. My first question to you is, do you think the youth budget is actually friendly to young people? I'll start with you, Nomqhele.
Well, I'd say it was relatively friendly because a budget should not just be about the statement that is read, but it's about us being able to discern perhaps opportunities that exist for young people, and not so much about the technical aspect to it in terms of there's so much percentage going to this and this means that and that. So I think in terms of the overall picture of the budget, it was somewhat friendly to you. Even by friendly, you're referring to how youth are able to understand.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it was relatively friendly.
I'd say no, because in terms of access, we've got young people as far as the rural young person who doesn't have access to what me and Nomqhele have. And how does the national budget relate to a young person, or say Slovela or Senkai? That's perhaps where I'm coming. That's my view, to say, was it perhaps then disintegrated into something that a young person can literally comprehend and understand? This number is going there, this number is going there. I do agree with her in terms of the allocations and everything, but even in terms of the translations, we just got the speech, but was it then translated to the rest of the young people who are not just like me and you?
But well, in response to that, I'd say for the young people that are in the rural areas or even some urban areas, it's then up to us who work with young people to cascade it down to them, make them understand what the youth allocation is all about, how much has been given to young people, and the projects perhaps that can help in terms of building the economic strength of young people that can contribute towards the economic development of the country. So I'd say in that regard, it is relatively friendly to young people, because at least this year we were given a good chunk, in terms of the allocation, but it's better than last year at least. Yeah.
Okay. So guys, do you think that youth leaders, you people who deal with young people, do you think that you'll be able to go out to the rural areas and also to Ekasi, who are always at home or who are not doing anything, and those same people, do you think they'll actually be able to understand what you guys will be talking about, the information that you'll be giving them? Will they be able to understand it and digest it in the same way that you guys would have understood it?
In response to that, I will point you back to my introduction to say a budget should not just be a statement. It is supposed to be more developmental in that we look at the budget lines and then ask ourselves to say, what projects can we implement in line with the budget? How can we work with the different ministries depending on your sector to ensure that the allocated budget improves the lives of the people? So for instance, this year when the professor was delivering the speech, he made reference to how it is supposed to be output driven, it's supposed to be about service delivery and accountability. So I'd say for me, who works with young people, for instance, perhaps it's not so much about me going there with the budget speech and saying to them, okay, so the Minister of Youth, Sports, Arts and Culture got 53.5 or whatever it is. But perhaps it's about saying, so what is it that as young people, what projects do you want to see being implemented in the maybe vocational training centers, the youth centers. If maybe I'm speaking to young people that are still in school, because we also have the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, we look at what sort of projects do you want to see maybe that contribute towards entrepreneurship development, which is something that the professor also spoke about. So for me, I'd say even for the person who works with people in the rural areas, it's about saying, how can we harness the skills of the youth within that community in line with the budget? Because I feel at times it's about when a budget is presented, we just maybe spend an entire month debating no, the defense got so much money, so much that it wears us down. When it's now time for us to be actually implementing or even going to the ministry and saying to them, Tina Ebulawa, this is what we want to see in our 15 youth centers. And so under the ministry, within as much as the sectors are involved, even Tina aspect here, you wanted to focus on this, and maybe this is how it's going to relate with the arts or the
right. Maybe to come in, we've had so many budgets given to the young people over the years. We've had Youth Fund, you've got, and at the end of the day, even if the professor is speaking about allocating that particular money, who is going to be accountable for it? Because you're looking at, yes, we have a minister, we've got a council that is supposed to be responsible for that, Zimbabwe Youth Council, but then who is literally watchdogging those, right? Yes, you're talking about us taking it upon ourselves to then deliver it, cascade it downwards to the other young person. But then you find that in so delivering, you are faced with so many red tapes along the way. Whereas in ministry, the Ministry of Youth, perhaps the Department of Youth on its own in the ministry, and is not yet capacitated. Practical example, you are talking about the 15 youth centers that are there in Bulawayo. How many of them have capacitated youth officers? Because I'm sure there are youth officers, right, that are reporting to the Public Service Commission, who are being paid. Because you find that the bulk of that money, as you are saying, we are going to do it, yes, but then the bulk of that money is going to go towards our salaries and these more high-priced cars. For perhaps our ministers, the ones, the big fish. And my point still goes back to the young person who say kaya or say lokshin. How does it translate to me? Umfana at a 96 point something % unemployment rate. I've been churned out of university and I'm literate, I have whatever I need, I have the life skills. How am I then going to access it? And that particular small chunk, whatever, maybe even if it's $500 to start up whatever project, how am I going to access it? The problem that we've always had over the years in Zimbabwe is accessing that particular fund.
Okay. So here your question is, how can young people actually access the money, or how can they access some of the projects
the benefits of that particular allocation of the national budget?
Okay, so in a way you're saying, how can young people be able to access the money or the projects that they've been allocated on through the national budget? But then I think Nomkele has already answered that question, unless you'd want to interject.
I want to bring in a different perspective to it. For instance, if Minangati Nyalima in Newton West, and I want maybe Agri-Bank, for instance, within serious own fund or whatever I'm doing, it might be difficult for them because they just look at me as that one person. But Nyingati Lima, Silabantu Abanga, Abayenza, Sile horticulture, which is something that even the minister spoke about, projects that have to do with maybe pigs, chickens and whatnot. Umuntu nxa as a responder to that is different, because now they look at it from a somewhat macro perspective than a micro. So my challenges that Hillary is saying are actually very much spot on. It has the capacity of some of our regional leaders and so forth. But I think as people that work with our youth specifically, we need to somehow come together. And if ZYC is not serving our needs, I think as NGOs or even people in the private sector but still are working with young people, we need to come together, because in synergy and collaboration, that's where we can achieve much than so as a youth invest, if I just want to be the one, we are going to be working within Juba Youth Center and just 5 million, and it becomes difficult. But if I engage among stakeholders, recently there was an advert to say I want to youth associations or people that working with young people should fill in some form to be part of some direction. Which efforts are then meant to direction. But it should augment our voice as people working with young people. Which alright, 15 youth centers and our associations that maybe 45. And then we have allocated ourselves with the I3 and youth center 1. And in that youth center we then mobilize young people around Lapap. And then see if we present it from that aim, are we going to be successful in our lobby and advocacy? If not, let's go back to the drawing board. I'm one person who really believes sometimes you really have to knock at certain doors till they open. Of course, they might not open, and therefore you might have to change the strategy. So I'd say in terms of accessibility, in terms of the capacity of some of these people, Tina Sive united as people that are working, youth, and then push towards these things, And then on about how there have been so much funds, there have been budgets that have been presented prior. I do not know, but it's my assumption that I find the level of engagement of young people this year is definitely different from the level of engagement that was there in 2015. It might have to do with some other changes at the national level, or it might not have to do with that. But I think Konokiana, it should not dampen our spirit to say, but in 2015, Osborne they tried it, they got this fund, they were allocated, and it was only given to 5 entrepreneurs. This happened and what. But I feel we use lessons that those guys learned about the corner. And then let us build it onto our own. How about we bring in this dynamic to it? And in line with the budget also, I feel there are many opportunities that are presented to young people. And we should not just focus on the ministerial allocations, but we should also focus on other opportunities. The minister was saying over and over again about the digital economy, was talking about ICT. These are some of the opportunities that are presented. But if as young people we just see ourselves as youth, and we do not want to play at the world stage, I think we will forever be sidelined from some of these things.
Right, but I still want to go back to the point that yes, you are saying there are different allocations. Yes, young people have a hand perhaps in some of almost all the sectors that were presented.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, it's not only perhaps about our allocation, but perhaps the all round. Agriculture has its own allocation, how many young people are into agriculture and all that. But I still feel, honestly speaking, how then does it channel to us, perhaps challenging the Minister of Youth to say, fine, what measures has she then put in place? And working as an interministerial department, whereas our government line ministries complement each other rather than what we've seen over the years. With our government line ministries, I cannot cross over from Minister of Education to Minister of Health. But it's a government line ministry, and I'm a young person, and I'm supposed to be able to access from going from Minister of Youth to Minister of Mines, and also access money that has been allocated to Minister of Mines. Yes, we do have a capacity as young people. That's not a fact. It may be not a fact, and which the capacity that has been built in young people in Zimbabwe is way beyond 18. But then when it comes to accessibility, you then find a politicization of what it's there in the norm. Let's not run away from it. It's there. You find that our monies or whatever allocations are then given are then now supposed to be politicized in a way, whereas you find a certain group of young people who then access it vis-a-vis a certain group of what. I'm for the point that you're saying, but let's amalgamate, let's create conglomerates around us saying us than me.
We'll take a short break. Stay tuned.
Utshwala yikho kunye ngikhala ngakho kakhulu. It's too expensive. You can't buy it dump at $3.50.
Abadala sesiyahlala ezindlini asahambi. Imali yakhona siyayibona ngaphi singasebenzi.
So $16 areswa $40.
What is happening? We don't understand.
Oil at $35. At $79.
Welcome to Community Conversations with me, Lungile. Thank you so much.
Basically, what you are saying is because at least he was better. He could control the prices.
Welcome back to Code 0292. I'm still with Hilary and Lungile. We're discussing the youth allocation on the national budget. What kind of initiatives can young people come up with, considering that on the speech of the national budget, there's an allocation for youth empowerment initiatives? I'll start with Hilary.
All right. Perhaps in terms of the initiatives, I feel let's go first with access. Access to information, access to almost everything. When we have access, you can now then have an informed decision. That's perhaps my keystone. If that key is unlocked, then I'm sure the rest of the things that Lungile was talking about are then an easy step forward. Because we're looking at young people failing to access issues or in terms of the money. Because even if, like I'm saying, the translation of the national budget to a person who shares a gas, who's unemployed, who has been unemployed for 5 years, or the translation of the national budget to Siso Lungile Allocation, or Chomogela Mbabanga Lapana Elokuzenin, Ku6 Avengant, how does it translate to the local person, or say how does it then? Now the initiatives that I'm looking at is perhaps the capacitation of Zimbabwe Youth Council, right? You have got youth officers, our Ministry of Youth, they've been there for I don't know how long, and I still feel a presence yabo in our communities as perhaps. And then the same thing is the capacity building of the organizations, the youth organizations that were supposedly needed to be registered with the and the organizations like Invest or .youth, etc., moving forward, and those are the ones that are working in the communities that can easily translate. So funding perhaps those particular organizations in terms of our initiatives, our programs, we've always linked that in terms of what, and at the same time, local governance as well. You're looking at city council, city of Bulawayo on its own having our youth centers that we cannot use. Yes, they have their own budgets, but we cannot use their youth centers. We've been to one of the consultations that were there, and we had our own reservations about the consultation. But then as we go further, our initiatives such as re-putting in youth fund that was there, Kurera Uwondla fund that was there before. I don't know how. The good part is we have now a youth empowerment bank that is now perhaps, yes, it's not all over the country, but in the 2 major cities. Whereas if we have a fund that young people can now then go and access, and then what we've been doing in terms of our ISALs, we are now then able to push our empowerment endeavors further. Entrepreneurial-wise, we are able to to move forward. And then we now have an empowered youth who is in Zimbabwe, or perhaps a young person or Allocation is able to move forward using that particular e-access. That is where my keystone is.
I think as someone who has been working with young people for quite some time now, you find many young people, when you're having a project, they always ask, is there money, are there t-shirts, is there food, and those questions might be interpreted as meaning they are not serious, or they are after promotional material kuphela. But mina, I believe my questions that are they're actually demonstrating a bigger need that young people have. Everyone wants to do something that will add value to them in terms of monetary or otherwise. And therefore, projects or initiatives that need to be championed by youth organizations and associations are organizations that will directly respond to basic needs that people have. Because once my basic needs are taken care of, I am even more willing to think more. I can even think in culture park as a whole. If mina eshalani kuhle, at least I'm able to even take care of my family. You know, I'm a 26-year-old. I'm now able to do this for my kaya and whatever it is. So I'd say activities you know, we need to make youth centers more vibrant. Katesi, they are just spaces that are used for, you know, dance rehearsals or drama groups and other meetings in here. But you'd say, how about turning them into incubation centers or hubs? And then you allow young people that Lungile is referring to, even a hairdresser, we as of the skills our entrepreneurship. Because when we talk of entrepreneurship, many times we think of it from an office side. We ignore other skills that young people have that can actually be harnessed if our focus is on inclusive entrepreneurship, which so if you take a hairdresser, if you take a manicurist or a builder, a miner, a plumber, whatever it is, you know, there are some cross-cutting entrepreneurship skills that they can gain. And then if you utilize those spaces as an incubation hub or just for workshops, but even more practical as opposed to just theory. And then when it comes to vocational training centers, I think abantu that go through those workshops or centers, they need to also appreciate it's not just carpentry, so that you have now some skill or something, but they need to be able to see how they fit into the bigger picture. And I believe that is then upon youth leaders that we referred to. Once they have that capacity to say, abantu laba sesibatrained, and tina budget yet, it then talks about a public-private partnership, which is what most countries are doing, because the government they can only do so much. So if then those people are able to say, we want to fit in these young people that have undergone this training in carpentry and plumbing and whatnot, into the link up with the private sector, either for his internship or to practice whatever it is. I think we will see a value out of those centers, and they'll begin to value whatever qualifications are going. Because unless I can imagine, there are other young people that are seated at home and they do not want to go to those centers. They don't want to go to youth centers because they ask themselves, but look at so we're not done. So this is why when it comes to translation of the national budget to the ordinary young person or ordinary person in Zimbabwe, maybe it's not so much about reading it out to them and getting them to appreciate what was said, but it's about practicalizing it, to say, who minister talked about this and this is something that we can do. You know, there are also other opportunities as a horticulture. So I did touch on that. There's ICT. Let's turn some of those centers to become that. I do not know how far in Kurumane Center by former Minister of ICT, which what's happening there.
It hasn't been.
It hasn't been
active.
So, I believe let's just try to push and see in can we get them functional. Than which is seen as a white elephant.
So Lungile, you earlier on you mentioned something about entrepreneurship, and you also mentioned something about bringing something which is tangible to the youth. And on the speech, the minister mentioned that there will be an allocation for youth empowerment initiatives. And if you're looking at that, do you think that this thing is it a thing of the past that has been repeated over and over again, or it's something that they'll actually implement this time around?
From what the government says or pronounces, be it budget, be it what, the government will say this, but as Katinasmeng, the people that actually implement or cascade what government says is the civil society, it's the at times private sector and other, organizations or other sectors. So I'd still say what Mtuli said is the way to go. If they are saying it for the 15th time or whatever it is, maybe that shows they might not have the capacity to do that, which links back to my point of saying, if you then go and present your case, we have so many entrepreneurs as Ulawai, and these young people, what we're referring to, statement as kunyo by the professor, and then we actually develop our projects from there. I think it can work. And also in terms of irresponsiveness of young people, like I said, perhaps when coming from the minister, everywhere or their department, it might not really be relatable to a young person who said Pumul. But if it's me who's having a youth association or an organization, and I go there and start to capacitate the young people in the line of entrepreneurship, I think they become even more receptive and are likely to put into action what they've learned. So for me, I'd say, in as much as government says ABC, let's understand that the people that actually implement that ABC is the civil society, is other sectors.
Right. So I'm more or less worried about, this is my major worry, but what Lungile is saying, the people that will implement, the people that are going to monitor and evaluate, those are the people I'm more worried about. As much as Tuli goes, I'm giving youth ministry this amount, who's going to distribute it and how is it going to be distributed, and who's going to evaluate after? To the last couple, understand, to the last board, and this is where I'm worried about. And as much as that has happened, so many statements have been said. I think we are coming from a very painful 38 years, and in that particular relationship, as has taught us, maybe who are young people, who've led young people, and in as much as government says this, it's another thing when it's being implemented on the what?
On the ground.
On the ground. In as much as you are being given this particular allocation, who uses it? How do they use it? Or how then does who's in government get audited for that particular money that has been given? And who is holding government responsible? We are going to get, we were talking about this before, and you are going to get people saying, we are giving you 553 million. But it's going to take 5 years for you to get 53 million. And it's a process. We've always had that. And even when the money does come, who uses it? How do they use it? How are they following it back? And evaluation yakona, where I've never in my entire history found that review. Maybe perhaps somewhere, but I've never found that review of the monies that have been allocated to different ministries. Fine, the ministers are going to be driving around in very nice cars, Ford Rangers, and running around the entire country, making speeches and doing everything. Unomkele, who is working with our youth in Jove, each 75 cents you cut. As one of those youth. How then did that national budget benefit the ordinary young person on the street? And we have been, our youth, yes, level of participation is amazing. But I think we are now at the level of tokenism, whereas we are part of the process, but we are not part of the implementation and what evaluation at the end of the day. Young people have gone to a very lengthy stage to fight for different things, but when it comes to our empowerment and our strategies of implementation and evaluation, I think I feel because we are not yet capacitated to ask, what can you tell us 53 million? Where is our 53 million in the government? Maybe it's a validation in parliament. Where is the 5 million you gave us? We didn't see it in Pumul. And because I think government says, I'll adopt the South African side, South African youth. they've always followed up on allocations. The National Youth Council here in South Africa follows up. Minister, you gave us this much. Who Minister of Finance? The Minister of Youth didn't show us where that money went. We want an audit of that.
I'm with Lungile and Hilary. We're discussing the youth allocation on the national budget. We'll be back after these messages. Stay tuned.
The cyberspace is home to billions of people and is the right platform you need to grow your business. The Center for Innovation and Technology is offering you a golden opportunity to speak directly to your market at an affordable price. We also offer media training workshops, live streaming, documentary production, and events management. Get in touch with us today on the following numbers: +263 867 711 290 or 0718 100 235. Don't forget to subscribe to our social media platforms. Like our Facebook page, Center for Innovation and Technology. Follow us on Twitter @SiteZW. And you can also check out our website www.site.org.zw. You can also visit our offices at 45 Moffat Avenue, Hillside, Blaauw. Take advantage of this opportunity to expand your business.
We are back and still discussing the youth allocation on the national budget. I'm with my guests, Lungile and Hilary. Lungile, what is your take on what Hilary said earlier on about the government's lack of transparency and the corruption that is happening in the ministerial levels, considering that young people also do not take a stance in being active and following up on the issues that affects them?
I think Hilary actually responded to that in his submission, because he first spoke of access to information and capacity building of youth centers and youth organizations and associations. Then he went on to identify this problem with the implementation and the accountability thereof of the government. And then he mentioned that there is need for us as the stakeholders, working with young people, to then play an active role in the implementation of the budget. So that's actually my own take, to say we need not to sit back and just watch from a distance and then wait to go and do an audit when we're not even involved in the actual implementation. So there is need for the youth associations to come together, and if your focus is entrepreneurship, you at least develop something to say, as entrepreneurs, we might want so much money, or these are the projects that we want to see being implemented in our areas of work. And then we push for that, such that when it comes to the evaluation, we can actually say, Tina sahamba le proposal yethu. Sasifuna ukwenza ama projects lawo. It went as far as even to the Honorable Minister's office, but there was nothing that was done. Because I think if we then query or audit the government from that point, we actually make much more sense. Guys, it's not like in our holding our hands. We have actually come to your doors. We have actually gone to ZYC or whoever it is, but still our views or our own suggestions in terms of the actual implementation were not taken into consideration. And I believe once we do that, the government will see that young people are so njebantu. They cannot just take our money and buy the latest Toyota, whatnot, but they need actually to focus that money on us. Yeah, to after all, yeah.
As youth leaders, what do you think can be done to ensure that young people will be able to access information, at the same time participate in democratic processes?
I think we should continue utilizing the social media like we already are, in terms of disseminating of information. But also, I feel that there are some more traditional methods that at least our resident associations are using, that we have neglected because of maybe assumption that everyone has access to data and therefore social media. So I'd say, if for instance we want to have a meeting at Lungile Youth Center, we need to circulate the message so that young people come and get the information or whatever it is. But also we need to do the door-to-door, posting of letters. We need to actually go on a sort of a mobilization drive where you say, as long as you have between 15 and 35, and then that way we can have views are representative of almost everyone. So I think we really need to make use of social media and other traditional methods to say, if it's e-budget, because I imagine even if we can distribute e-budget, it's not enough. We might want to come together and then dissect and so on, then let's discuss what is it that we want to see. So I believe when it comes to access to information, we cannot not talk about the mobilization of people, because you will ultimately drive the actual implementation.
I'd perhaps go on to say a multi-sectorial response, right? As how government tackled HIV and AIDS in Zimbabwe, they set up a multi-sectorial response to a particular problem. And right now, perhaps, like we've identified some problems that we are facing, a multi-sectorial response thing, youth invest angel care, perhaps site, and what are the capacities that all of us have, and then combine them into something that perhaps, like you're saying, mobilization, and then layering. I've loved a situation where site cannot do, angel care perhaps is capacitated to then do. Where we have done our part, Youth Invest also does what? Its part, forwarding in. We will then find at the end of the day, even though when we produce a working paper or a blueprint for the next budget, we are now able to then perhaps have submissions that are what? To say, fine, you gave us this money, we utilized it this way. And then perhaps as a blueprint for the next one, this is what we are expecting from you. But if we have a multi-sectorial a response to perhaps almost everything, and then always monitor and evaluate what has been implemented on the ground. Because you find that civic society and the NGOs are the ones that are pushing and holding our governments accountable. But we, the people that then put those people in power, are not holding them accountable. We are not holding our ministers accountable. We are not holding our permanent secretaries accountable. We are not holding our MPs that we voted into power accountable, or even our councillors accountable. Because those things are the ones that matter and are the things that we expect to see from our government delivering. But then if you then find Uti government then steps on us when we're now then trying to do that, we then have problems at the end of the day. But in terms of having initiatives around that, let's perhaps come together and see where our capacities start and where our capacities end, and then complement each other moving forward, because it doesn't take Uhilari alone. It takes Uhilari Nomkele Ulu Bani Bani to then make something happen. I can go as much far as I can near one, but together we'll then achieve a certain destination that we want.
As we're about to close, what are you doing as youth leaders in your various communities to assist young people? What are you doing in your organizations, in your communities? What are you doing to assist young people?
Tina, as youth invest, we are focusing on inclusive entrepreneurship. So we help build the capacity of different entrepreneurs, because when we speak of inclusive entrepreneurship, we're not just talking about including men, women, or people with disabilities, but we're also looking at the different skills and talents that young people possess. And in one of our projects that we are currently piloting at Njube Youth Center, we're actually focusing on how we can raise the profile of different youth entrepreneurs and their businesses, because we believe that way we can achieve actually that public-private partnership that everyone is talking about. And then also we are currently championing financial inclusion for young people as well as women, whereby we have been engaging the Empower Bank, and it has been actually doing an awareness workshop so that our young people actually get that information, because not everyone can go to their branch. So we're actually ensuring that our young people have access to that information so that they make informed decisions as to whether to apply for the loans or not. And then we are also in the process of creating a billboard for entrepreneurs across Zimbabwe, and that is meant to assist us in our lobbying and advocacy efforts, whereby if we're saying to, maybe we want to go to the Minister of Youth or the Minister of Finance, you know, when questions such as, so how many entrepreneurs do you have arise, we don't want to say, we think we have around 200, but we actually have a figure to say we have so many that are in mining and they are operating from whether it's Shabad or whatever it is. So those are some of the activities that we are doing.
All right. Perhaps I'll start with Angel Care. We are mostly into primary health, being a youth organization that noticed that young people are the first primary caregivers when someone is sick at home. Right. So social care commitment is to have one nurse aide in every house, someone who's able to provide care. It's not like our government system does not provide proper adequate health care, but having an affordable and accessible healthcare service in the comfort of your own home is perhaps also lessens the burden for government for health. So what we've done is we've gone as far as trying to also identify the gaps that are there in the healthcare system, in the healthcare delivery system of Zimbabwe, providing our nurse aides within the homes, as well as trying to very soon launching a community ambulance program as well as a highway ambulance program where we're looking at the accidents, the amounts of accidents that are happening in our roads. So we need to have people that are equipped, and if we have a healthy household, it contributes to a healthy community and a healthy nation. Then in terms of the funeral side, yes, we do talk about funerals, but as a young person, I feel young people aren't as much responsive or caring about how when life ends it affects them. The cost of a funeral should a loved one pass on. So when I'm trying to say to young people, I'm a young person as well, I'm a young entrepreneur, I bought shares in a company that is what is as old as myself, and it's not about dying, it's about how you plan for that. You plan for your health, you plan for your education, but there's what we call end of life. You need to also prepare for that. And how do you then prepare for it? You start now when you're still young and able to provide for yourself. But then as well in the communities, we're still working on different programs around how we can then come together as young people, as well as all other youth organizations. But that's what we've done.
Thank you for coming to the show, and I'm sure all the viewers, especially the young people, heard what you guys are talking about. Thank you for watching. From me, Lungile, it's bye for now. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure to follow us on Twitter at SiteZW. Goodbye. Welcome to Code 0292, a new show brought to you by Site. My name is Lungile Ngwenya. This show will tackle on youth affairs. And for today's show, we will talk about the national budget, focusing on the youth allocation. And to help me discuss this, I have my two guests who will introduce themselves. Welcome, guys.
Hi, Lou. I